Colorado is now home to the country's newest national monument. President Biden declares 53,000 acres just yesterday as the Camp Hale Continental Divide National Monument. The designation covers Camp Hale and the 10-mile range and part of the Continental Divide Trail. Camp Hale is the place where the military trained soldiers in mountain warfare for World War II. Bringing in our 9 News legal expert Whitney Traylor here to kind of weigh in. I mean, we were just talking in the commercial break about all the controversy kind of coming out surrounding this, but a president making a national monument that's kind of normal fare, right?
Well, I would think so. I mean, this was President Biden's first of them. But yeah, this is established from the Antiquities Act of 1906. And since Roosevelt, I think it's been 18 presidents have used it, and there's been about 250 designations. So it shouldn't be controversial, but of course we're in a polarized time, and so I think the controversy is that you know, they're calling it a land grab, and then it can't be developed, and those kind of things.
So these are public lands. That's the bottom line. The question is how they are designated is what's happening here, because the argument is whether they can be drilled or mined or who can recreate them on them and when, right?
That's exactly right. These are federal lands, and so, you know, the federal government can say, yes, we want to do this to preserve it and to, you know, prevent land degradation and things like that. So, yeah, this was already federal land. And so now they're saying, you know, even though there's some concern about what type of recreation may be limited, President Biden and the administration are saying, no, we're going to, you know, keep the trails open and keep it very accessible for people.
Now, if this is under federal domain now, like, who manages this? Who's going to determine what can be built, if anything? Because this is a big area.
It's a great point. And there were a number of stakeholders. I mean, this is now, I did a lot of research because this is somewhat new to me. And some of the research came from the administration and things, so it had a spin on it. But they were saying that there have been definitely many meetings, a lot of stakeholders, county commissioners and things. So a lot of people weighed in on it to ultimately come up with what the restrictions will be and those kind of things. And I think it's the Bureau of Land Management, I believe, is going to be managing this one.
Yeah, the Secretary of Agriculture came out, the Forest Service having a big hand in all this, but it's a matter now of the precedent. I mean, this has been done before, and how they manage it going forward. But I don't know how many of these areas now have been converted into a national monument, with the idea of environmental law also playing a lot into it. How these are managed is I think it used to be people said, oh, the environment, yeah, that'll be great, we'll work around that. But now it's one of the very first things you discuss.
Well, and it's a legitimate point because of the current situation that we're in, and that is really the rub, saying, well, you're preventing development and we need it for energy and things like that, but maintaining, obviously a lot of environmental groups are saying, you know, lauding this, and this has been something that President Biden's been pushed on to do for some time from Senator Bennett and others, but you know, he did it. And now what can happen from here, there's a question. Presidents can't generally undo these, but they can limit it, so they can cut back acreage or expand it and that kind of thing. So if there's a new president in a couple of years, we may see some movement on it.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, what it looks like. But I think the designation for many people who followed the 10th Mountain Division, who followed Camp Hale, and now with also the indigenous tribes being recognized, although that now being controversial as well, I think that's important to many people. So we will certainly be following it here in Colorado very closely. Whitney, it's great to see you.
Good
and
to be here.
Happy birthday to your mom.
Oh, happy birthday, Rita.